One of the biggest things I've learned toward the end of 2024 is just realizing you need to stop caring so much. Caring too much is something that can stunt your growth. It's like having fear. The purpose of that emotion is to keep you away from danger and to make sure you stay alive. But in reality, aside from jumping into truly life-risking behavior, we feel fear during regular things. Simple things such as making a decision to learn something new, approaching strangers, approaching women and talking to them, taking jumps in your career, and saying what's actually on your mind. When any of these things actually kill you or harm you, no. They're hard on the surface, but let me ask you, what bad is actually going to happen if you slip up? We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Seneca. To explain this quote, it means a lot of our fear and anxiety exist within our head, but rarely, if ever, do they materialize. Yes, actions have consequences, but those can be both positive and negative. But more than likely, the negative consequences will be blown out of proportion in our head. But just from that hypothetical alone, we don't even want to try. One of the books that I'm currently reading puts something into perspective for me. It's called The Four Agreements. And it says, from the time that we're children, we're being shaped, told what's right and wrong, what's good for us and what's bad. We're domesticated. We don't hold any power, but when we finally begin to grow up and reach an age of maturity, we rebel, and we do what we want regardless of the consequence. Then eventually, we reach adulthood, and by this time, we should have power over ourselves. But by the shared fact that many of us care way too much, we give that power away. Power over ourselves is given to strangers, which means you allow people who don't even know you to domesticate you. This might sound excessive, but think about how often you let the thought of judgment from strangers or people you may see regularly stop you from taking what we perceive as risks. Some people won't go to the gym because they're afraid of judgment from strangers, who will never say anything to their face, by the way, literally stopping themselves from becoming healthier. Or some guys, they won't even ask a girl out that they find attractive for fear of rejection. But it's funny, because you're already strangers, so the worst that's gonna happen is you go back to being strangers, but the positive is you get experience talking to girls, and there's a possibility of getting together with a girl you find attractive. A lot of insecurity stems from how we believe others view us and not how we view ourselves. Something I wish I learned earlier was the concept of making mistakes. Majority of the people watching this are under 30. From the time of birth to about the age of 30 is when you should be trying to make as many mistakes as you can to gain experience. When you make mistakes as a young person, people forgive you because you don't know better, or it's because you're inexperienced. You learn from trial and error. This is a stage in your life in which you should be building yourself. Mistakes don't mean failure, failure means giving up. But when you realize these concepts are directly linked to each other, you understand where I'm going with this. You don't take risks because you don't want to make mistakes, and you also don't want to be judged, but you also want the rewards that come from taking action. The one thing stopping you from taking action is fear, which exists because you care too much and believe the negative outcome is the worst thing ever, but in reality, it doesn't hurt you. Remember this, the people you see with the most success failed over and over until they eventually got there. Elon Musk. As much as people hate him, his success stands testament. One of the stories of this has to do with him trying to launch a rocket, and he failed like 2 or 3 times, and he was on the verge of running out of money. He scrapped together money for another rocket launch, and there were people probably wondering, why is he even trying to launch another one? He's just gonna fail. But guess what? He was successful that last time. These success stories only exist because someone made their own decision without worrying about what others had to think. I think the understanding of emotions play a big role. A book I read about emotions a while ago gave me an amazing insight. That being, we aren't our emotions. Emotions come and go, they're responses to external or internal stimuli, such as the environment or our thoughts, etc. But they disappear over time. Understanding this impermanence helps awareness. Realize that just because you experience an emotion, it doesn't mean it defines you. Experiencing fear doesn't make you a scared person. It's just an experience. Acknowledge what you feel and observe it, as if you're meditating. Then respond logically rather than being controlled by how you feel. In the grand scheme of things, judgment and the opinion of others is a mild inconvenience. It sucks and it's annoying, but it shouldn't stop you from doing the thing you want to. Fear can also be called mild inconvenience. It exists within your head, but it's fabricated, based on hypotheticals you're creating in your head. The whole purpose of this video essay is to pose the question of understanding why you care. Understanding that nothing bad will actually happen. A lot of the things we think is going to happen stem from imagination or anxiety. But realize one thing, your feelings are going to cloud your judgment. Things that are good for you, have they ever been comfortable or easy? Letting that fear take over is simply keeping you comfortable, which inevitably leads to you staying the same. This is why I think it's important to realize that you need to learn how to not care. Realize the true consequences of your actions and judge if it impacts you negatively. Since I've started my journey of improvement, there are times when I take steps back and steps forward. But the feeling of having power over yourself and not letting others cloud your judgment is exhilarating. Noise is always going to exist, and I mean the people who don't understand you and question everything you do. Don't surround yourself with yes men. Instead, have people who will nurture you and help your decision because they have an outside perspective. While not caring is powerful, we are social creatures, and there should be a very small group of people whose opinions and perspectives hold value. However, the one thing that needs to remain is having the clarity and self-satisfaction of knowing what you did was right for you.